The three leaders have arrived on the Cipressa in the closing stages of Milan San Remo 2014. The gap for these three riders up front just on 2 minutes, and it looks as if Cipressa has good legs today as he charges clear of Marc Demar, and Matteo Bono seems to be struggling of the three riders. Matteo Bono going south, going north, Marc Demar and Martin Cipressa. But I can tell you, back in the main group of riders behind, about 50, maybe 60 riders are in contention and gunning down this breakaway group. Just two riders very shortly will remain from the initial 7 that charged off the front after 15 kilometers in this 294-kilometer slog from Milan to San Remo today. It's still raining hard at the finish line in San Remo as they attempt to clear the finish line and make it as safe as possible for what could well be a big group finish, or also could conceivably, well, it could be anything really. Could be a solo win, could be a small group, could be a bunch finish. Anything can happen in Milan San Remo, and very often does, as we see the massed ranks of Lotto Belisol now on the front. So clearly André Greipel's in good form today. Jan Barta is mopped up by the peloton. Geschke comes to the front. He's got a job to do for John Degenkolb. Degenkolb is in the group, and Giant Shimano want to take things up. So Lotto Belisol and Giant Shimano taking responsibility on the front of the group. For so much of the afternoon, it's been the Cannondale team that have taken responsibility for making things as difficult as they possibly could for the sprinters in the group. Haven't managed to shell the big guns at the moment. Greipel's in there, Degenkolb is in there. So too is Mark Cavendish for Amiga Pharma Quickstep. Haven't getting few tweets into @DQ Sport, people asking what about Team Sky. Well, they're not visible on the front of the peloton at the moment. They'll be hoping that Edvald Boasson-Hagen is in decent nick. We believe that Arnaud Demar is in the group for Française de Jeu. And Degenkolb there in the middle of the group, just taking his jacket off, and Cannondale go to the front, and this is not a surprise, Sean. This is what we've been expecting, because they've got to make things tough and do a job for Peter Sagan. The race is really hotting up now.
Yes, that would have been the expectation. Cannondale would try and make it as difficult as possible. As we can see here, you know, Degenkolb very much to the front, Cavendish there as well, and Cannondale are just going to make it real difficult as they start here. The Cipressa, we just turned onto it, you know, keep the pressure real high and try and put the sprinters under difficulty. If you do not drop on this one, well, then you put them under pressure and they possibly will pay on the Poggio.
Peter Sagan sitting in second position for Cannondale. 24 years of age. People are starting to get impatient that he's taking his time to win his first monument. It could be today. Seems a little bit unreasonable for a rider in such tender years, but 63 race wins already in his career. As riders are being popped out the back. That's Hugo Hull from AG Tour Le Mondial, who cries enough and will struggle to get back on even for the Poggio. And even if he did, the Poggio no doubt would be his Waterloo. Now riders from Bardiani, Valvoli, CSF are also going south. And little groups of 5 and 10 riders are going to make this a very small group at the front by the time they get to the top of the Cipressa. Some of these will get back on, but well, not if you're getting shelled at this point in the climb. Still piling the pressure on the front. Peter Sagan looking very comfortable indeed in second position. It's Demarchi of Cannondale that's doing the damage, and what an impressive job he's doing indeed. And that group can't be more than 20 riders at this stage, if it's even as many as that. Ben Swift, is it, in third position for Sky Pro Cycling. Very impressive work. Don't see too many Sky jerseys in there. One making his way up the line on the right-hand side. Is it Edvald Boasson-Hagen? Because he's their go-to guy today. And Demarchi setting an absolutely relentless pace. Got a side of Mark Cavendish. He's slipped down the group a little bit, but he's still in there. He's still surviving. Now, the top of the Cipressa is arrived, according to the road group, with 22 kilometers remaining. Just under a minute and a half advantage for the two riders up front, Cipressa and Marc Demar. What a savage ride that they're doing, because there's a good chance they could well get to the Poggio. Still in the lead of this race. it seems beyond the bounds a possibility that they could survive out front to the conclusion, but they could well come up with a very solid finish. But these two riders, they've been out front since kilometre 15 and some savage racing at the beginning to try and get that break established. So these riders really showing amazing endurance, as Demarchi also shows that he's got fantastic legs today. Cavendish is still in there. And is that
Nibali?
Nibali, Vincenzo Nibali makes the move that he absolutely had to, and we knew it was coming, and everyone was waiting for it, and it's happened. And the question is, who's going to be able to close it down? Vincenzo Nibali cannot possibly bring a large group to the line. There's no way he can even think about out-sprinting them, and he just goes to the side and gallops off the front, apparently without any difficulty. No signs of effort on his face. A little bit of blowing there. I can tell you this is a big effort coming down from Vincenzo Nibali, but very, very much in control of his of the effort that he's making at the moment. Well, what a great effort too from Demarchi, because he's keeping him very much inside, and none of the other teams have decided to react to this.
Well, we could see the BMC rider, Greg Van Avermaet. He looked at Vincenzo Nibali, went in the attack there, but I don't think...
Nibali has caught Bono from the original break, the third rider on the road, and I don't think it's going to be too long before he catches the other two riders as well, because they weren't that far ahead starting the Cipressa.
Yes, and the surprising one is that Nibali attacking here, because I think the pace being set by the Cannondale rider Demarchi was quite strong, but Nibali decides to up the pace a bit. Cannondale continue on working on the front with Demarchi, but is it for somebody else within the team of Nibali that they're really setting up here? Because, as I said, Nibali maybe not in the best of shape, but he's a rider that can, you know, just improve so much in the number of days. In Paris-Nice he wasn't at his best, but he's certainly feeling good here.
Another man feeling good, Gerald. Is that Gerald Cielek from MTN Quebec? It's got to be him, hasn't it? As he shaved the beard off, he's looking very, very strong, very comfortable indeed, sitting in 6th position, the defending champion. Surprised everyone with that victory last year, and I think he's in there again and looking in good shape for a good result. But Vincenzo Nibali now within a minute of the two riders up front, but more importantly and more interestingly, what is the gap to the riders behind? He's settled into his own rhythm now, not looking behind, but Demarchi's doing a wonderful job. The camera perhaps foreshortening the gap to Nibali, but there's no question that he is well within touch of those other riders up front, and Nibali needs a decent advantage. Cresting the Cipressa, doesn't seem to be drawing out front of the group as much as he needs to.
Well, I think, again, the pace being set by the Cannondale rider Demarchi is, you know, quite a strong pace, so it's difficult, you know, to pull out a huge advantage. But, you know, if he keeps on working here, he could, you know, maybe gain 5 or 7 seconds and then go for the descent. But it's a long ways between the Cipressa and the Poggio. When you get to the bottom of the descent of the Cipressa, you have about 9 kilometres to get to the Poggio, so it is a long one. But he will maybe hoping that somebody else will come across to him, maybe come across on the descent, and then go on from there to do that 9 kilometres to get onto the Poggio.
Riders absolutely killing themselves at the back of this group to try and hang on. They're scrabbling for the last little bit of energy, and they've got another couple of kilometres of this savagery and suffering to endure before they'll have got over the Cipressa, and then they have to try and gather the thoughts for the final ascent of the Poggio, which begins with just under 10 kilometres left in the race. So still lots of effort to be expended by the riders. Vincenzo Nibali looks like a little afternoon training spin for him at the moment. He's managing to hang on out in front of this group as he mops up Mark Tamar and Martin Cilingi up front. Just over half a minute to Vincenzo Nibali, and Nibali in turn looks like he's got well over 20 seconds advantage to the riders behind, but he needs more than that. No sign of Philippe Gilbert. We might have expected something similar from him. A couple of BMC riders in there. Greg Van Avermaet going well today. Tough to pick out numbers, of course, because they're wearing the rain jackets. They don't put numbers on those. But what an effort from Demarchi, and no panic from the peloton, Sean.
No, nobody wanting to go in the attack. I think when you look at the situation out front with our two leaders, Mark Tamar and Cilingi, and then Nibali just in between here, there's no need for panic at the moment, because at this point there's a long ways to go to the finish, and So there is time on their hands, and the interesting one is you can see this group of favourites we see here. It's got to be very, very small, and you know, the ride is just losing contact. The weather conditions is just taking its toll. We have what, about 25, 30 riders maximum in this group of favourites.
The long limbs of Mark de Maar. Martin Cilingi, stockier, more powerful looking figure, but the two of them combined effort, and they're still able to chat. So they're Mark de Maar looks like he might be suffering a little bit more than Cilingi at the moment, but the two of them were still working well together. Now just over 20 seconds ahead of Vincenzo Nibali, with a kilometre to go according to the road book to the top of the Cipressa. Group behind still relatively compact despite the efforts being made at the back of the group. They look in good shape at the moment. Great effort from Salvatore Puccio, the Italian. Crashed in this race last year, if memory serves. He's in at the back of the group, but still in contention for Team Sky. So Nibali charging across this gap and putting time into the group behind, and he certainly needs to, as he crests the rise very shortly. Mark Cavendish almost taken out by one of the yellow fluo riders. Well, perhaps not, just have to make a little adjustment. And now 40 seconds to the two riders up front for that bunch. So there's no question but that the two are going to be caught. The question is,